This is Liam Hendricks, and you're watching Crosstown Crosstalk on the Barroom Network.
Every summer in Chicago, the sunshine spotlights the city's spectacular skyline. Its luxurious lakeshore, marvelous monuments, and the over 200 neighborhoods in the city. And it also brings to light two of the greatest sports franchises in the world. On the north side, it's the Cubs. On the south side, it's the White Sox. This is Crosstown Crosstalk.
Hello and welcome to another very exciting episode of Crosstown Crosstalk presented by the Barroom Network. My name is Vinnie Parise, and I am riding one of the most wild trains I've ever been on as a fan of a sports team. Okay, when I was younger, my favorite sports teams were all pretty good. The White Sox were pretty good in the mid-2000s, with Konerko and Dye and Creedy and Burley and Garland and Pierzynski, the whole crew. The New Jersey Devils were outstanding with Zach Parise, Ilya Kovalchuk, Martin Brodeur, Patrick Elias. They were incredible. They were one of the best teams in the NHL. The Chicago Bears were even pretty good. They had an outstanding defense with the likes of Brian Urlacher and Lance Briggs. And, even the mediocre quarterback play of guys like Jay Cutler and Kyle Orton and even Rex Grossman got them to a Super Bowl. Lately, though, they've all stunk. While in the last 3 years, the White Sox have actually kind of turned it up. They made the playoffs in back-to-back years for the first time in franchise history in 2020 and 2021. They're trying to be division champions for the second straight season for the first time in franchise history. That's not very good, but it's also kind of an overrated way to make fun of baseball teams because for the first 50 years of Major League Baseball's existence, the winner of the American League champion in the regular season and the winner of the National League champion in the regular season played each other in the World Series. So like when Yankee fans go 27 rings, you can laugh at them by about 20 of them because like I said, they were the best team in the regular season, so they got an automatic World Series bid. And then they just smoked the National League champion in a 7-game series. It wasn't too hard to win the World Series for the Yankees back then. So in the modern era, the Chicago White Sox, they're trying to do it, okay? So on September 15th, they are trying to make the playoffs, and that is unlike most years as a White Sox fan in my life. I'm thinking back. We talked about this on last week's episode. We also talked about it on South Burbs Hitman this week. When have the White Sox been in contention this late in the calendar year? Let's think. 2005. They won the AL Central and ended up cruising through the playoffs. They went 11-1 and won their first World Series championship in 90 years. The following year, 2006, they were arguably better. But their division was not arguably better, and they won 90 games, and they did not make the playoffs because the wild card wasn't what it is today with the extra teams making the postseason, and they missed the playoffs as a 90-something win team. The White Sox might make the playoffs this year without being a 90-win team, so times have changed. Okay, fast forward a couple years to 2008. You might remember that one miraculous year where both the Chicago White Sox and the Chicago Cubs made the postseason at the exact same time. That was a year where they were in contention this late in the calendar year. The Cubs were swept by the Los Angeles Dodgers. The White Sox lost in 4 to Joe Maddon's Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays ended up going to the World Series in their first year after dropping the word devil from their name. Okay, fast forward another 4 years. You got 2012. The White Sox were in it to win it. They had a 3-game lead in the division with 15 games left, and they choked. But on September 15th, they had a chance to be American League Central champions. That was unlike most years as a fan. Then you have to go 8 years to get to 2020, where you will find the Chicago White Sox making the playoffs as a wild card team in the COVID-19 shortened 2020 season. Following that, they made it in 2021. So that means 05, 06, 08, 12, 20, 21, and now 22 are the 7 years in the last 20 that they are in the contention for the playoffs this late in the season. That's not very good, okay? But what it is exciting times for right now. And I encourage people to, although it can be frustrating, and going into this season, we expected they're going to win the division by double-digit games, and they're going to have a legitimate chance to be the American League champion. Baseball's hard. Sometimes the manager doesn't work out. Tony La Russa was clearly not the guy this year. We have seen what has happened since he has left the dugout earlier in this month. I think it was actually April 30th that he left. And then, or not April, August, excuse me. And so since then, but is it too little too late? We don't know. Currently, they're playing the Cleveland Guardians. They are winning 7-1 in the bottom of the sixth inning. If you're listening to the audio version later, you probably know what ended up happening in the game. If the White Sox hang on and win, they will be, yes, you guessed it, 3 games out of first place in the American League Central Division with 18 games left to go. That is not impossible, especially since the White Sox have the Guardians, the team they are trailing 3 more times next week. Going into this weekend, they have 3 games with the lowly Detroit Tigers. And the South Burbs Hitmen are in the chat talking about the White Sox playoff appearances few and far between. TLR needs to take care of himself. Absolutely. All of my critiques about Tony La Russa are 1,000,000% baseball related in terms of his health with his pacemaker and his heart. I hope he's okay, and I hope he finds a way to make it back to being involved in baseball in some way, shape, or form. I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. He is not the right fit to be managing the Chicago White Sox in the year 2022. So the White Sox are battling with the Guardians for this spot in the division lead, and it's going to be very, very difficult. I mean, I'm going to be honest. They pretty much have to win all 4 games against the Guardians before the season comes to a close. They might get away with losing one of them if Shane Bieber starts one of them and he just shoves like Shane Bieber can beat any pitcher in the league. You know how good Tristan McKenzie is. He shoved it up the White Sox hoop last time they played. And I really enjoy Cleveland's pitching. 2 of their 5 starters are down with injury, but you never know what can happen when a team like that, they play well. Jose Ramirez is one of the 5 best players in the American League, and it's going to be tough to catch them as the season comes along. But like I said, as the South Burbs Hitmen point out in the chat, playoffs have been few and far between with this team. Even having a chance to make the playoffs this late in the season has been few and far between. So with guys like Elvis Andrus leading the way, Eloy Jimenez has been red hot since basically the entire second half of the year. He has Aaron Judge-like numbers, and Aaron Judge is probably going to be the MVP of the American League. And, you know, guys like Gavin Sheets, Andrew Vaughn, incredibly hot, decent batting averages, hitting home runs. The power has been magnificent since Tony La Russa left. It's almost like when Miguel Cairo took over, their approach to hitting has entirely changed completely. People wanted Frank Menechino gone, their hitting coach. And I'm like, we haven't heard Frank Menechino's name since Miguel Cairo took over. Why? Well, because for the most part, they've had a couple stinker games. Every team has stinker games. The Dodgers blew it to the Arizona Diamondbacks in extra innings yesterday. Craig Kimbrell was on the mound, and he gave up a 3-run shot to Pluto. Diamondbacks win to the Dodgers, who are going to win probably 115 games and potentially have the best record in the history of the sport. They already clinched their division, and there's still 18 games left. That's incredible. Teams like that lose. The problem is a loss like yesterday's to the Colorado Rockies, 3-0 at home. That feels horrible because of the hole the White Sox dug themselves into. If they were leading the division by 10 games, not a single person would have cared that they threw out a dud yesterday at Guaranteed Rate Field. Actually, Wednesday at Guaranteed Rate Field for those listening later. It is not always easy. They're going to lose another game the rest of the season. They will not go 19-0. Down the stretch. That is unlike last year. The Cardinals won 17 in a row in September, and they got themselves into the wild card after it looked hopeless for them. And then they lost to the Los Angeles Dodgers in the 1-game wild card because somehow San Francisco won the division and a 106-win Dodger team had to play in a 1-game wild card. Notice how the rule changed exactly 1 year later. That's not an accident. But yeah, I mean, if the White Sox get hot, got to beat Cleveland. But after you take care of business today against Cleveland, we hope they're up 7-1 in the 6th inning. You have the Detroit Tigers, as I mentioned. That team is not good at all. They're injured. They don't score. I see videos of guys just swinging at baseballs outside of the zone by 10 feet. They can't have any good approach to hitting whatsoever. The White Sox should be able to sweep them. I would say sweeping them, you have to take 2 at minimum. You have to take 2. But if you sweep them, hopefully you get some help from a couple other teams across the league as I'm checking right now to see who the Cleveland Guardians play. Oh, great. Great news. The Cleveland Guardians play the Minnesota Twins, who the Guardians just swept last week. You hope the Twins can come out with just a little bit more fire this weekend than they had last week, but don't hold your breath. The good news that I'm seeing is that over the weekend against the Twins, the Guardians will use Morris on Sunday. They will use Bieber on Saturday, and they will use McKenzie on Friday. Meaning, I would expect to not see either Bieber or you might see one of the two, Bieber or McKenzie against the White Sox, but they also might change things around. There's an off day for both teams. No, I'm incorrect. The Guardians play on Monday, and they're using Quantrill. So their three best pitchers are going against the Twins. You hope the White Sox, at least early in the series, can catch a break in terms of their pitching matchups, because this weekend – the White Sox are going to use and their starting rotation. On Friday, we will see Lucas Giolito. On Saturday, we will see Johnny Cueto. And on Sunday, we will see Michael Kopech. Off on Monday. I'm assuming that means on Tuesday, you will see Dylan Cease. Ready to take on the Cleveland Guardians in that game, Tuesday, September 20th. Then you're probably getting Lance Lynn again, who's absolutely shoved today against the Guardians. You'll see him on Wednesday of next week. And then on Thursday, you're probably going to get Lucas Giolito, who, going into that game, if the White Sox have a little bit of luck, you might really need the best version of Lucas Giolito possible. We've seen him be in Cy Young contention. It hasn't been that great of a season all year long for him. But if there was a time for him to come up close or come up clutch, now's the time. So that's the White Sox and their hard fought battle with the Guardians. And it's going to be a fight to the finish. Cleveland following that will probably, let's look at their schedule a little bit. They have the Texas Rangers, who they have players who can make an impact on a team, and they can make things hard on any given opponent that they have. So they'll play them for 3 games. Then they have the Tampa Bay Rays. The Tampa Bay Rays are awesome. The Rays might really be able to help the White Sox if they're able to take care of their own business, trying to clinch their own spot in the postseason later in the month. But the real problem is the fact that the Cleveland Guardians have 6 straight home games against the Kansas City Royals to end the season. So while the White Sox are playing the San Diego Padres and the Minnesota Twins, 2 really tough teams to play against in the final week of the season, the Guardians are going to be playing Kansas City, who, if we're not talking football, they stink. They're elite at football. They stink at baseball. So the schedule doesn't necessarily favor the White Sox in their battle with the Guardians. That's why defeating them in these 4 games is extremely pivotal. Again, is it fair to say it's a long shot that the White Sox are going to make the postseason? Yes, it is 100% a long shot. They are not the favorites to win the division. Cleveland is favored kind of by a heavy margin on most books that you look at. So if you're a believer of this team, you can make a lot of money by betting on the White Sox to come back and win the division. But getting this win against Cleveland today, it's clearly all hands on deck. They've gotten a little bit from everybody. Home runs from Andrew Vaughn, Gavin Sheets, Elvis Andrus, Yohan Moncada. The list goes on. Yasmani Grandal hit a unicorn home run. For those who don't know what a unicorn home run is a ball that is hit out of a ballpark that would not leave any other ballpark in the world. In Major League Baseball, I guess I should say. It would only have left in Cleveland, and that's the kind of luck the White Sox need right now. They got it from Grandal in this game against the Guards. Hopefully they are able to get it done. Now, switching gears, the Chicago Cubs, they swept the New York Mets this week. For those of you who don't know, the New York Mets are one of the best teams in Major League Baseball. Not only did the Cubs sweep them, none of the games were necessarily close. They had a handle on almost every game. And one of the starts for New York was Jacob deGrom, who, in my opinion, is the greatest pitcher I've ever seen. In a 5-year span, if I can take any pitcher that I watched pitch, now, I don't remember Nolan Ryan too much. I'm a little past that. Pedro Martinez. I remember Red Sox Pedro Martinez, who was elite. I don't remember too much of Montreal, Pedro Martinez. The 98 All-Star game, I was only like 4. So I guess maybe besides Pedro, even probably including Pedro, I think I would take the prime of Jacob deGrom of any pitcher I've seen. The Cubs went out there and they were the first team to score 3 on him since 2019. I want to say is the last time he gave up 3 runs. So just an incredible, incredible thing for the Chicago Cubs getting that done against them. And that impacts the American League East division. I'm looking at it right now. And the Mets are now 89-55 after being swept. The Atlanta Braves are 88-55. They have a half a game lead over those Braves, do the Mets. And that is 100% because of the Chicago Cubs going into New York at Citi Field and sweeping them. That is unheard of for a team that has had as tough of a season as the Cubs. I mean, the Cubs just swept them, and they're now 61-82. After sweeping a team, they're still 21 games under 500. That team went into New York with one of their games being started by the ace of Major League Baseball, Jacob deGrom, and they beat them. They really shook up the National League East. There's an article on DeWindyCity.com that went up this morning covering how the Cubs really put a dent in the American League East division. They really helped the Atlanta Braves. And now when you look at the Cubs schedule for the rest of the season, I don't see how, as a Cubs fan, you would not be extremely excited about it. I mean, I'm looking at this thing. I'm like, okay, they just swept the Mets. The Mets are one of the best teams the Cubs will play all season long. And they beat them 5-2, 4-1, and 6-3. That is a combined run total. 5 + 4 is 9, + 6 is 15. They outscored them 15-6. That's unbelievable. The Mets. And then you look at the rest of their schedule. You got 3 against Colorado. Okay, well, the Colorado Rockies, what a lucky little nice break in the schedule for them off the field. You get to go spend a summer week in Chicago. That's sick. You play 2 games against the White Sox. You have 2 days off. You're off Monday. You play 2 against the White Sox on Tuesday and Wednesday. You're off on Thursday. Then you play the Cubs on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's a nice off-the-field week for the Colorado Rockies. I hope they ate all sorts of deep dish pizza. And every single game against the Cubs is a day game for Colorado. So they can spend their nights eating delicious food and having nice drinks across the city. Man, what a nice week for Colorado Rockies. Okay, after that, the Cubs, they get to go to Miami for 3 against the Fish. Miami's not very good. They're probably worse than Colorado. Maybe. It depends. There's definitely a division gap when you look at the team's records. Like Miami plays in a much different situation over there. Then after Miami, you got the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are probably the worst team in the Central Division of the National League. And the Cubs got them for 4. I think the Cubs are better than all 3 of these teams so far. Then you have 3 with Philly. Philly, although not as good as the Mets in the standings, they're hotter than the Mets. They have won 5 games in a row as of right now. That streak will certainly be broken by the time the Cubs get back home to play them. But 3 against Philly, that is the last time that the Cubs will play a team over 500 this season. September the 27th, 28th, 29th. Then listen to this. After that one series against a team over 500, you have 6 straight against the Cincinnati Reds, who are one of the only teams in the National League worse than the Cubs, record-wise. Them and the Pirates, who they also play, I mentioned. The first 3 are at home. Those will be the final 3 games at Wrigley Field this season. And then there will be 3 at the Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. So the Cubs can realistically, they play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. They play 19 more games. There is no way that the Cubs can't go 15-4 in that stretch. And if they do that, they'll still be under 500. The Cubs are a lock to be under 500 this season. They are not turning around from that. But they can close that gap. And then you say, okay, well, how did the Cubs get to being this close to 500 after being close to 30 games under at one point? Well, Nico Horner is one of the best players in all of Chicago baseball now. He's a legit superstar. I don't know how he didn't make the All-Star team. Ian Happ did make the All-Star team. If Seiya Suzuki would have played the whole season and not suffered from injury, I am a little concerned about Seiya Suzuki with his injury. It seems like there's always something with this guy. He's their version of Luis Robert. Elite player, always hurt, though. There's always something nagging him. And then, of course, Wilson Contreras. We'll see what happens with both him and Ian Happ in terms of their contract. Happ he can't leave on his own. Wilson Contreras can. But if he really wants to be a Cub as bad as they say he does, maybe he'll re-sign. Who knows? Maybe he'll see the way this team has played. The favorable schedule would help the Cubs in their quest to keep him. But it's ultimately all up to both Wilson Contreras and Jed Hoyer. And ultimately Tom Ricketts as well. Do you want to pay a 30-year-old aging catcher? I personally would. I wouldn't give him 10 years or anything like that. But I'd give him a 5-year deal for $100 million. Yeah, without question. Wouldn't even think twice, because he's also demonstrated the ability to play left field. There's a designated hitter in the National League now. That didn't exist when, Kyle Schwarber was looking for a new contract. That didn't exist when Chris Bryant, Javier Baez, Anthony Rizzo, all those guys were looking for stuff. There was no DH in the National League yet. Now there is. So there's no reason for them to not keep Wilson Contreras. Then if you move Nico Hoerner to either center field or second base, you can start looking at one of these shortstops that are going to become available. You can keep Hoerner at short and sign Trey Turner. The Cubs are rich enough. They absolutely are rich enough. You can move Hoerner to second, get Madrigal out of there, and sign one of Bogarts or Correa. Then all of a sudden we're probably looking at a minimum 80-win Cubs team. That's not good enough for the playoffs, certainly not good enough for the World Series, but it's the start of something good. The Cubs have been brutal at developing pitching, even during the Theo Epstein era. Kyle Hendricks, acquired in a trade, didn't really have to do much developing. The Texas Rangers did most of it for them. Jake Arrieta, complete bum with the Baltimore Orioles. They traded for him. He magically became a great pitcher with the Cubs. John Lester was a Hall of Famer before he came to the Cubs. John Lackey, really good player that they signed in free agency. They traded for Jose Quintana. They signed Tyler Chatwood. There are all sorts of pitchers that came to the Chicago Cubs. None of them developed under the Cubs regime, even including Theo. It's the only thing Theo Epstein really failed at was developing pitching. They signed Craig Kimbrell. Okay, they traded for Wade Davis. They traded for Aroldis Chapman. All of their great pitchers they traded for or they signed, and that's kind of a problem. You need to be able to develop pitching. Skyler believes they should pay Contreras. I completely agree. I wouldn't give him he wouldn't be getting a major deal. He's a catcher. Okay, catchers oftentimes don't catch their entire career. I think he provides value in terms of leadership and his fire and his ability to want to play. Here's how you know Wilson Contreras is a competitive guy. Brewers fans, Cardinals fans, Reds fans, they hate his guts. Okay, they absolutely hate his guts. Why? Because he wants to win so bad. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He's mean in between the lines. Outside the lines, though, you don't find too many better dudes than him. Him and his brother William, what they do for their communities and what they do for baseball, they were both all-stars. It's incredible. I like watching them play. The Cubs need to be better at developing pitching. They traded Dylan Cease to the White Sox. I'm a White Sox fan, so I'm happy about it. But, what was that? They felt they were okay with trading Jimenez. Now, that was a mistake too. He's amazing. He hits a home run every other game for the White Sox. But the Cubs have been okay at developing hitting. He felt expendable for the Cubs. Okay, they traded Jorge Soler. They didn't have a problem with it. I mean, between Jorge Soler, Eloy Jimenez, Gleyber Torres, these are all prospects that have all gone to be 30 home run guys for their new teams. The Cubs have no problem trading away guys like that because they don't really have an issue with finding new ones to take their spot. Okay, Brendan Davis is going to be a monster. We like Nico Hoerner. Ian Happ's awesome. We saw what they turned Kyle Schwarber into at one point. They let him walk. That was kind of a mistake. But Eloy, he was expendable for the Cubs. The Dylan Cease thing. He's going to win a Cy Young in a White Sox uniform maybe. Or he's at least going to come in second. That's something that really would irk me if I were a Cubs fan, and that's something that needs to get fixed soon. I believe it will. I don't know what happened to Albert Alzolay this season. Injury all season long. They have to be better. Hopefully this Jacob Killian kid can become something great. The kid they got for Efros, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. I don't have it written down. Still learning some of these guys' names. He pitched 5 innings to follow up Wade Miley a couple nights ago. Really, really, really good. Hopefully these Cubs young kids are able to develop as pitchers. Cole Franklin, breaking news to those watching, he'll be making his second appearance on this podcast later this month. As soon as he is eliminated from postseason contention with his current Cubs affiliate, he will be on. He's becoming a friend. Very excited to have him on. Maybe they'll develop him into something. When we had him on last year, he was in the low 20s in terms of their number overall prospect. Right now, I believe he's number 9. He's been brilliant this season. Keep developing that guy. Keep developing pitching. It should be the sole focus of this Cubs team going forward. And sign a free agent or two. They could end up being pretty good in short order. The Cardinals' run in the National League Central Division is basically predicated on the careers right now of Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado. Albert Pujols hits a home run every now and then. Everybody goes crazy because it sets a record. We'll talk about him in a second. But besides the Cardinals, and during the Nolan Arenado Goldschmidt time, the Central sucks. The Brew Crew has taken a crap this season. They're probably going to either barely going to make the third wild card spot or they're going to be the first team out. The Pirates stink. They're trotting out an embarrassing lineup every single night. I can't believe Major League Baseball lets a team throw out a lineup that bad. If I'm being brutally honest with the freaking Pittsburgh Pirates, they're a joke. Okay, they should be disgusted with themselves. They traded Garrett Cole, Meadows, Glasnow. I mean, what the H is wrong with the Pirates? Screw them. They're annoying as hell. As a baseball fan, all biases aside, the Pittsburgh Pirates should be ashamed of themselves. And then you got the Cincinnati Reds, another team that should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. But at least I have a little more trust in the Reds to take these young prospects that they've acquired in trades and developing them into something. The freaking Pittsburgh Pirates are just going to trade them all away. Garrett Cole has one bad wild card game start against the Cubs. Kyle Schwarber shits on him, and the Pirates give up on him right away. Now Garrett Cole became one of the best pitchers of his generation. Just a complete joke of an organization. The Cubs have a chance to elevate themselves in the division in the coming years. I'm sure everybody hopes they do so. Aaron Judge, 57 home runs. Wow. Never thought I'd see a guy hit 60 again, if I'm being honest. I'm not. It's not a guarantee that he does. He needs 3 more. It seems like he does every other night too. He hit 2 against Boston a couple days ago. None yesterday. But you're at 57 home runs. 61 is Roger Maris's American League record. He's not going to hit 70. He's not going to pass Bonds. 73, I think. McGuire, 70. Sosa, 66. All 3 of them were in the National League. The American League record, Roger Maris. Judge can pass Maris. I'm confident he can hit 4 home runs over the next 19 games or however many the Yankees have left. It's probably right around there. I believe he could do that. So we're rooting for him. I do hope Judge breaks the record for the American League. I would vote for Ohtani for MVP. I've said it on the show many times because what he's doing is something we haven't seen in 100 years. But if Judge breaks Maris's record, it's going to be very hard for him to not win the MVP. And he has a higher WAR on Baseball Reference and Fangraphs than Ohtani. And the fact that he's doing that without pitching is saying something about how good of a bat he has been this season. So I was pumping Shohei Ohtani on Twitter over the last couple of weeks. Since our last show, though, and I'm not going to say I've pivoted. I would vote for Ohtani if I had a vote, but I don't hate Judge winning it at all. He deserves it too. He deserves it too. And whichever one of them wins, I'm going to tweet nice things about. Albert Pujols, a couple nights ago, I believe it was Saturday, he hit home run number 697, breaking the career mark of Alex Rodriguez, who was 4th all-time. So now Pujols at 697 stands alone as the 4th greatest home run hitter of all time, only trailing Barry Bonds, Henry Aaron, and George Herman Babe Ruth. I hope Pujols gets to 700 really bad. Okay, he needs 3 more. He needs 3 more. If he hits 2 more, there are people that legitimately believe he'll retire with 699. And I'm thinking, like, have you ever seen the movie Mr. 3000? Bernie Mac? How the H, like, he came back all those years later just to get 3 hits because they deemed something about 3 of the hits that he had being not counting, and he came out of retirement to get his 3 hits. I would be stunned if he doesn't at least start the year with the Cardinals to get this done. Ichiro played that extra year, that extra month the following year, just so he could play that series in Japan. The Mariners played. I can't remember who the Mariners played. It was probably the A's. It definitely was a West Coast team. Maybe the Angels. I don't know. Ohtani wasn't around yet. He played in Japan. Then he retired like a month after the season started, maybe even days. Pujols has to do something like that. He can't retire with 699. If I'm the Cardinals, he's a split player this year. He only got in the lineup against certain pitchers. You have a safe enough lead in the division. You have to put Pujols in the lineup close to every day. Hope he runs into a couple more and gets to 700. So that's what I'm rooting for. And, baseball's interesting right now, guys. Got all these great storylines. The top of the NL East is elite. The Mets and the Braves. And then the Phillies are going to be a wild card team as the third place team. The race in the Central, like I said, the Cardinals have it locked down. They have an 8-game lead over the Milwaukee Brewers. The Dodgers have it by 20 games over the Padres. And then you look at the National League wild card scene, and you have the Braves, the Phillies, and the Padres in that mix. The Brew Crew trails by 2. That's probably it. The Giants are 9 behind. They're done. So one of the Mets or the Braves will win their division. The other will be the top wild card team. And then either the Brew Crew or the Padres will be the final wild card team. My prediction is the Padres. In the East, the Yankees have pretty much wrapped up the American League East. It was looking kind of fishy there for a minute for the Yankees. They were struggling hard in the second half, but they have since been 8-2 in their last 10 on the back of a 4-game winning streak. They are just about finished in the division. Houston has it wrapped over the Seattle Mariners, which is just goes to show how good Houston has been as well, because the Seattle Mariners have the best record in the American League since June 1st, and only the Los Angeles Dodgers have a better record in the league as a whole since June 1st. So the fact that Houston was able to keep up pace just enough to have the division over the Mariners is very incredible. I'm excited to see what those two teams are able to do in the playoffs. And then, of course, the White Sox and the Guardians battling it out for first place in the Central Division. That should be really fun. The White Sox are currently winning 7-2 in Thursday's game. And the loser will probably miss because the White Sox are 6.5 out of the wild card spot. And the Guardians would be 3.5 games out. So it's not looking good for them, whichever team doesn't win the division. I do think whoever wins the division is going into the playoffs hotter than a lot of the teams making the wild card, because both of them had to come back. The Twins were in the division lead like 2 weeks ago. Both the White Sox and the Guardians have been red hot over the last 2 weeks. We'll see if it's too little too late for one of them. We'll see what happens. The wild card teams will be the Toronto Blue Jays, the Seattle Mariners, and the Tampa Bay Rays. I believe the Baltimore Orioles are done. They're this year's version of last year's Mariners. We should see Baltimore be a much better team next season. This is fun. I've enjoyed talking about Major League Baseball for the first 33 minutes of this show, but we're going to kind of pivot and have some fun. So if you're in the chat, gear up. I want to hear some opinions. We are going to do a top 10 list of the best teams and why in the National Hockey League, Major League Baseball, and the National Football League. That sounds fun, right? I think it's kind of fun. The hardest one right now is the NHL because training camps are just getting started. Only the rookies are there for the most part. A couple teams have their veterans there already. I saw a couple depth players already skating for the Chicago Blackhawks. Obviously, my favorite team, the New Jersey Devils, their rookie prospect showcase is getting ready to get going. So we'll start with the NHL. I encourage everybody to watch Bar Down Talking Hockey every Wednesday at 2 p.m. because me and Frank Mueller are going to go over this list. I'm going to get his opinion, and we're going to bring it to that audience as well. So at number 10, I have the Vegas Golden Knights. The Vegas Golden Knights missed the postseason last year. That's why they're only at 10. Last year, they dealt with a lot of injuries. They acquired Jack Eichel halfway through the season, and when he got back, he wasn't the Jack Eichel that we know. He was still pretty good, but he wasn't the Jack Eichel that I believe can lead a team to a Stanley Cup championship. And having them at 10 is me being completely looking at their roster and seeing how good it is on paper. I think they should be able to come back and have a really good showing in the Pacific Division. I actually believe they could win the Pacific Division. I'm picking them to win the Pacific Division, even though I have a team in my top 10 ahead of them. That's because of what I saw last year and the playoffs and how that was all impacted. So Golden Knights at 10. Number 9, the Florida Panthers. They would have been 1 on this list going into the playoffs last year. And I had full faith in them last year. I think their roster got a little bit worse. They made some tough trades. They're going to have to see how the new chemistry builds up with Matthew Tkachuk joining the team, but I have the Panthers falling down to 9. I'd still rather be in the top 10 than not in the top 10, but last year being at 1 on my list most of the year, that's a pretty far fall for them, so we'll see what they're able to do this season. I like the Panthers, so I hope they're able to climb back up my list as the season goes along. Number 8 is the Pittsburgh Penguins. The longest active playoff streak in the National Hockey League belongs to the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's also one of the longest playoff streaks in the Big Four American male sports. Of course, Pittsburgh is led by Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and Christopher Letang. That core is there, back in business, all signed up for a long time, and I'm excited to see what the Penguins are able to do this season. At 7, the Nashville Predators. They've made significant improvements to their roster. They have a Vezina caliber goaltender. He was nominated. They have in UC Saros, their captain and best player, Roman Josi. He was the Norris Trophy runner-up last season. And when you have a duo like that, leading your defense with an elite goalie and an elite defenseman, it's easy to build around. Okay, they have really good players surrounding them. They added Nino Niederreiter at forward. I love Philip Forsberg. I love Matt Duchene and Ryan Johansson having great seasons last year. It should be a lot of fun to watch this Nashville Predators team this season. At number 6, the New York Rangers. The New York Rangers have, in my opinion, the second best goalie in the National Hockey League with Igor Shesterkin. Their forward group is led by former Chicago Blackhawks superstar Artemi Panarin. And they have guys like Mika Zibanejad, Alexis Lafreniere, Christopher Kreider. There's so much good with the New York Rangers. They lost in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Tampa Bay Lightning last season, and they were very good. And I think they're going to be very, very good again. They have a chance to win. I have them coming in second in the Metropolitan Division, but they could easily win it, and they're going to be dangerous once the playoffs roll around because of their goaltending and because of the fact that they have, in my opinion, top 3 defensemen. I talked about Roman Josi coming in second for the Norris Trophy. Well, the year before, the trophy was won by Adam Fox, and I think the world of Fox. He's one of those 4 or 5 guys that could win the Norris Trophy every single season, and you could argue he's the most important player to the New York Rangers in general. At 5, one of the noisiest teams this offseason has been the Calgary Flames, who I have at 5. And Calgary, they lost Johnny Gaudreau in free agency to the Columbus Blue Jackets, and Matthew Tkachuk wanted out, so he was traded to those Florida Panthers, who I mentioned. And it's going to be interesting to see how Tkachuk fits in with Florida. But instead of rebuilding like I kind of thought the Flames were going to after losing 2 100-point scorers and the number 2 scorer in the whole league and the number 4 scorer in the whole league, they replaced them with, or number 3 scorer, Gaudreau and Tkachuk were both in the top 5. They replaced them with Jonathan Huberdeau, who was acquired in that trade for Tkachuk from the Florida Panthers. He was their leading scorer last year, 110 points, outstanding player. And Nazem Kadri, who will always have anywhere from 80 to 100 points. And he's a mean dude to play against. He's hard on the puck. He's physical. He gets under people's skin, and he's just an incredible player. He was a Stanley Cup champion last year, and I believe Huberdeau and Kadri are a nice way to replace Gaudreau and Tkachuk. The Flames are not going to miss a beat. They have a great goaltender. They have outstanding defensemen. I love some of their forwards like Elias Lindholm, Andrew Mangiapane. Outstanding stuff from them. They traded Sean Monahan to the Montreal Canadiens in order to make room for some of these guys. And I like this group, so I got the Flames at 5. At number 4, the hardest team in the National Hockey League to dissect year by year is the Toronto Maple Leafs. You look at that roster, you see good goaltending for the most part. You see pretty good defense. I love Morgan Riley. I think he's incredible. And, of course, the Leafs start and go with their forwards, led by Austin Matthews. Matthews became the first player to score 60 goals since the 2012 season last year. Whenever you go a 10-year gap in any sport with anything, it's kind of a big deal. And Austin Matthews scored 60 goals. It was incredible. And his supporting cast of the captain, John Tavares, William Nylander, Mitchell Marner, all of these guys are capable of having 80 to 100 points, if not more. And the forward group is really good. I like some of the depth on the team. A guy like Matthew Bunting is really, really nice to have around. And I'm excited to see what the Maple Leafs are able to do this year. Every single year I put my faith in them, and then they take a crap on my face in the playoffs. But it's another year of thinking very highly of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I have them at 4. Number 3, one of the best teams in the NHL, the Carolina Hurricanes. They just continue to get better and better. Every single year they find ways to replace guys they lose. When they lost Dougie Hamilton, they replaced him with that complete asshole Anthony DeAngelo, and he was really good for them offensively. And they lose him in free agency. He goes to Philly. Well, they make a trade to acquire Brent Burns, who's been one of the best defensemen in the NHL over the last 20 years, just an offensive guru. He's not quite the Brent Burns that he was in 2016 or 2017, but on a team like the Carolina Hurricanes, where they get pretty good goaltending, and they have forwards like Sebastian Aho, Teuvo Teravainen, of Andrei Svechnikov, the kid from Montreal who they got. I'm drawing a blank on his name. Katkaniemi. Jesperi Katkaniemi. They have outstanding forwards up front, and Brent Burns is going to help them get the puck, and they're going to score lots of goals. They are my pick to win the Metropolitan Division. At number 2 are the defending 3 straight-time Eastern Conference champions. They have won 2 of the last 3 Stanley Cups, and they were defeated in the Stanley Cup final last year, the Tampa Bay Lightning. I mean, the Tampa Bay Lightning could very well be number 1 on this list a week into the season. You know who I'm going to put at number 1, but at number 2, I have to give my respect to the Tampa Bay Lightning. They have a Hall of Famer at every single position. There is a Hall of Fame goalie in Andrei Vasilevsky. He's pushing Mount Rushmore of NHL goalies all-time territory. I truly mean that. Victor Hedman, if I can craft one defenseman in the NHL in a factory and put them on my favorite team, it would be Victor Hedman in his prime. There are other defensemen around the league. Obviously, one we're going to touch on in a minute here at number 1. But I talked about Adam Fox, Roman Josi, Brent Burns. All these guys are great. Victor Hedman is right there with all of them, and he's helped the Lightning win 2 cups. He's won Norris trophies, and he's going to win a lot more stuff in his career. He's basically just getting started. I like the Lightning. Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov, Braden Point, all these outstanding forwards. I'm excited to see what they're able to do following another great year in 2021-22. I thought they were going to win the cup, but they were defeated by the team that I have number 1 on this list, the Colorado Avalanche. Colorado has everything they need. They lost Kadri in free agency. Okay, but they're going to try and replace him, and they're going to do what they can. We know the prowess of Nathan McKinnon, Gabriel Landeskog, and Mikko Rantanen. Those are 3 of the 30 best forwards in the NHL, all playing pretty much on the same line. I really like what Valeri Nichushkin has brought to the team. They're going to have, solid goaltending no matter what, because the team plays so well in front of them, and their best player. I never thought there'd come a world where Nathan McKinnon would be in his prime and he would only be the second best player on the Colorado Avalanche. And let me be very clear about something. Nathan McKinnon's a top 10 player in the NHL, but a top 5 player in the NHL is Cale Makar, their number 1 defenseman. He is incredible. He is the reigning Norris Trophy champion. It wouldn't surprise me if he wins 4 or 5 of these things in his career. He is incredible. I haven't seen a defenseman skate like that ever. People who are 80 years old would probably say they haven't seen a skater on the back end like that since Robert Gordon Bobby Orr. I'm being dead serious about this stuff. He's Connor McDavid on defense. He was able to shut Connor McDavid down in their Western Conference Finals series, and wow. His ability to skate, defend, use that to get the puck up the ice, score goals is incredible. I like the Colorado Avalanche. It wouldn't shock me one bit if they repeat as Western Conference champions. It wouldn't shock me at all if they repeat as Stanley Cup champions. They are going to be very good. There are a couple notable omissions from this list. I touched on them. Edmonton Oilers, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, incredible team. Every year I disrespect the Oilers going in because it seems like they're like an every other year kind of team. I hope I'm wrong. I really, really do. I think I'm going to be. I still think they'll make the playoffs. Just, are they a top 10 team? Do I trust them in a playoff series over any of the 10 teams that I named? I'm not sure yet. Maybe I'll reconsider by the time October's over, but that's my list of the top 10 teams in the NHL right now. Let's move over to, let's do the National Football League. We'll save baseball for last since this is a primarily baseball show. At number 10 in the NFL, I have the Denver Broncos. Okay, the Denver Broncos, they started 0-1 and they took a poop on Monday Night Football. Well, let's look at why they took a poop. They should have killed the Seattle Seahawks. They were within 5 of scoring twice and failed to get in the end zone both of those times. You can argue they should have won the game 30-17. They ended up losing the game. I think it was 30-17, they said, and they won the game or lost the game 17-16. It was something along those lines. They lost by 1. Their coach, Nathaniel Hackett, needs to take a big look in the mirror this week and decide that he is not going to be the detriment of this team as the season goes along. That was a poorly coached game by him. They should have called the timeout in the final 5 minutes. I can't believe they tried to make the longest field goal in NFL history to end the game in the loudest stadium in the NFL. The decibel level at Seattle was the best in Seattle history. And like, they used to break records and cause minor earthquakes during the Legion of Boom era. And they broke that level against Russell Wilson and the Broncos. I have them at 10. If they lose to the Texans this week, I will have no hesitation to back off my take about the Broncos this early. But, I still believe the Broncos will get it done and be one of the best teams in the league. But again, need to be better on the goal line, need to be better with game management late. At number 9, we're going with another 0-1 team, the Cincinnati Bengals. Well, why are they 0-1? They played in a weird game. Joe Burrow was not good in the first half against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then he really kind of turned it on in the second half. And they came back all the way. It was like a 20-point deficit that they came back from. And Fearless McPherson from last year looked like Fearful McPherson this year. He was not good as their field goal kicker. They lost the game because of it. You know how overtime could go either way with teams, and one field goal here, one field goal there. That was the detriment of the Cincinnati Bengals this week. I still think they'll bounce back, win the AFC North, and all will be fine and dandy for Joe Burrow and company. At number 8, the Philadelphia Eagles. They're getting the most out of Jalen Hurts. I don't want to hear no more Jalen Hurts disrespect. He's not an elite quarterback. He's a good quarterback. The Eagles have a pretty nice roster. They know what they have with him, and they play to their strengths. I think they will be the winner of the NFC East division. And I honestly think the NFC is so wide open that if you could find a good price on them winning the NFC, throw some cash on it. There's no reason not to. Philadelphia Eagles are very, very good, and they get the most. I like the way they're coached. I like the way they use Jalen Hurts. And it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes for them. They'll have some tough games, but they'll also have some games like against the Detroit Lions where they'll score lots of points. The Lions scored some garbage points late in the game. I actually think the Lions are better than most people give them credit for as well. So them making it close late during garbage time doesn't exactly surprise me. But Eagles at 8. Number 7, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady and company. The team as a whole didn't look very good for most of the game. Their defense did, though. Their defense held the Dallas Cowboys to 3 points. That's the least in the NFL through 1 week. They're the only team that did not score a touchdown. And that's a lot because of the way Tampa Bay played on defense. There's a new defensive coach, and Tom Brady looked like Tom Brady in the game. He found a way to win a football game. They're having some serious injury trouble with some of their playmakers. Obviously, Godwin is going to be out, or at least got hurt in that game. There's no Gronk. There's no Antonio Brown. It's Tom Brady trying to figure it out on the fly. He always does. And if we see them as a top 3 team by the end of the season, you should be 0% surprised. At number 6, a team I've talked very highly about on Bar Down Talking Hockey with Frank Mueller, took some flack for it during the summer for thinking that they would be the NFC North champion, and that is the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings have an incredible offense. Kirk Cousins is an underrated quarterback. He's not a good elite quarterback, but he's good enough to win games. And when you have a player like Justin Jefferson, you saw Aaron Rodgers go up to him after the game against the Green Bay Packers, in which they killed the Packers, and said, "You were the best player on either team today." That's high praise from a guy like Rodgers, who's one of the best to ever play. Justin Jefferson and the Minnesota Vikings with other weapons like Thielen. Thielen would be the Bears' number 1 or number 2 receiver. I mean, he's very, very good. They have a good running back with Dalvin Cook. I like the way that their offensive line played. Their defense was solid, and Aaron Rodgers wasn't able to do much. There were a couple drop passes by receivers, which certainly helped Minnesota, but they won the game, and I think they're going to win a lot of games this season. Number 5, another purple team, the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens are led by Lamar Jackson, who is one of the most disrespected quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. He's top 10. He throws over the field very, very well, and he makes plays with his legs. He got to 10,000 passing yards and 5,000 rushing yards. Is that the stat? Faster than Michael Vick did for the fastest in NFL history. He's able to make plays with his arm when he needs to, and he's able to run the ball. And people say, well, if you shut down his running, then he's not going to be effective. A, I don't believe that to be true. I think he can throw it just enough to help this Ravens team win. And B, well, yeah, you could say that about a lot of guys. If you shut down Russell Wilson's running, he doesn't have a Super Bowl. But guess what? Good luck shutting that down. That's the thing that just grinds my gears so much. Good luck shutting it down. He's not like Trey Lance out there running around getting killed. He knows how to slide. He knows when it's time to take a hit. He knows when it's time to take a slide. He knows when to throw. He's very smart on when to run. And I credit the Ravens for developing this entirely interesting offense around him. I think they're going to win a lot of games this season. I'm starting to think that they might actually be the team that comes out as the AFC North champions. I picked the Bengals preseason, but the Ravens are very, very good. At number 4, a team we will see tonight, the Los Angeles Chargers. Justin Herbert is one of the very best quarterbacks in the NFL, and I believe he has a chance to go on and do great things. I believe he will be a Super Bowl champion, and the Chargers are very, very good. I like what they did on their defense. Khalil Mack made an incredible difference for them this week. They had a bunch of pass rushes and deflected balls and sacks, and the Chargers were all offense last year, and their defense was a big problem. That's why they missed the postseason. You combine having a top 5 quarterback with a defense like that, and you're going to get a really good team. We'll talk about their opponent in just a few minutes. Number 3 is a team that's also 0-1. Now, another bad week could get them out of the top 10 entirely, but I don't believe that that's going to happen for the Los Angeles Rams. I have them at number 3. They were number 2 last week, and I'm still only dropping them one spot down to 3 because they have plenty of talent. I just think the team they lost to is still yet to be named on my list, and there's just no reason to drop them down too far after losing an opening game to a team that's probably better than everybody, right? I mean, you know who I'm talking about, and they're going to be on this list in a little bit, but the Rams. They have a great quarterback with Matthew Stafford. I hope he's not actually injured. I'd like to see them get another weapon or two for this season. Their defense didn't look like it normally does, but I think that'll correct itself as the season goes along. I am not going to overreact to the Rams losing their first game of the season to a team that's probably just better than them. At number 2, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. I struggled with this one. I was going to put them at number 1, but I couldn't do it. I put them at number 2. I'm well aware that as a fan-sided employee, my monetary well-being is invested in the Kansas City Chiefs because that is our biggest pull as a company, and I like the Chiefs a lot, though. I mean, they do everything right. They got the elite quarterback. They got an elite coach. Everything on the offense is built around Travis Kelce. They lost Tyreek Hill, and they're still able to take full advantage of the receivers that they do have. People are wondering how Juju Smith-Schuster can go from the Pittsburgh Steelers to the Kansas City Chiefs and look great. Well, that's because the matchups are different. The offensive scheme is better, and you have number 15 to throw the ball to on an offense commanded by Andy Reid, who's one of the best coaches who ever lived. I like Kansas City. I'm excited to see them play. We talked about the Chargers at number 4. Well, tonight's game between the Chiefs and the Chargers is going to tell a lot about both teams. If it's a close game, which is what I'm rooting for, then we'll still be able to be very confident in both teams and excited about what might come once the postseason comes around in the winter. But as of right now, the Kansas City Chiefs, I have no issues with them. I think they are going to be a force all season long. At number 1 is a team I desperately hope plays the Chiefs in the postseason, and that is the Buffalo Bills. I think the Bills are the best team in the NFL. Josh Allen is one of the very best quarterbacks in the league. He's right there with Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Tom Brady for the best, Joe Burrow for the best quarterback in the NFL. And I'm very excited to watch this Bills team all season long. I think Diggs is incredible. Their defense is very good. The triangle man, Von Miller on defense, adds a whole new element to what's going on there. And I'm really excited about the Buffalo Bills. I think they are going to be a team to be reckoned with all season long. A couple honorable mentions. I did this with hockey as well. Obviously, I think there's a chance the Green Bay Packers make the list at some point this season. It wouldn't shock me at all if the Miami Dolphins make the list at some point this season. And I would have had the San Francisco 49ers in the top 5 last week, and I bumped them off my list entirely. You lost to the Chicago Bears. Okay, I'm a Bears fan. I root for the Bears' success. They're who I cover. They're who I like. I can't say that a team is top 5 after losing to the Bears in week 1. San Francisco has to re-earn my trust. They must be able to beat the Seattle Seahawks this week. I'm not as confident in Trey Lance as some people. I'm not out on Trey Lance by any means. I just need to see more, so they're out of my top 10 list as of right now. Moving over to Major League Baseball. At number 10 is the Cleveland Guardians. Okay, they're winners of 6 straight. They're about to lose to the White Sox, we hope, and they will have a 3-game lead in the division. They're in the top 10 because of how hot they are, right? I think they're very, very good. I think if they make the playoffs, they can beat anybody. They have an outstanding pitching rotation. If they get healthy, it'll be even better. But as of right now, the Cleveland Guardians, they're my pick at 10. I think Jose Ramirez is a top 10 player in the league, in the American League, probably top 5. He hits, he plays good defense, and he helps the Guardians win games. They were able to come back and beat the Los Angeles Angels in one of their games last week. Well, who comes up to bat and hits a 2-run home run to put them ahead for good? Jose Ramirez. He could be that type of game breaker. The Toronto Blue Jays come in at number 9. I like the Blue Jays. They're very, very good. Their offense is incredible, led by Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I like Bo Bichette. I like Lourdes Gurriel Jr. I like George Springer. There's so many good players on that team that score runs in bunches, and their pitching is better. They got a guy like Barrios, no more Robbie Ray, and they still haven't missed a beat. The Blue Jays, they're going to probably be a 2nd or 3rd place team in their division, but it's one of the best divisions in the league. It's one of the best divisions in sports, and I think they have a chance to do some damage in the postseason. They have the benefit. Well, they're probably going to start the playoffs on the road, but if they find themselves at home in the playoffs, there might be some unvaccinated players that, aren't able to go and play there because Canada, and that's an advantage to them depending on who they play. But I think that'll probably change by the time the postseason comes around for certain players in the league. But I think they are very, very good. At number 8 is the St. Louis Cardinals. Man, they were in 2nd place like a month and a half ago. And the Brew Crew has fallen off. They've stepped up. The top 2 National League MVP candidates play for the St. Louis Cardinals with Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado. I think the world of those 2 players. I still can't believe to this day that the Colorado Rockies gave Nolan Arenado to the St. Louis Cardinals for a bag of baseballs and a strawberry frosted donut. And they are just one of the teams that year after year, no matter what, you think about the Patriots in football, you think about the Pittsburgh Penguins in hockey, the New York Yankees in baseball. The St. Louis Cardinals are of that ilk. No matter what, they're at least going to be a moderately competitive team. I have them at 8. At number 7, the American League version of the Cardinals that isn't the Yankees is kind of the Tampa Bay Rays. They're just always kind of hanging around, always finding guys off the scrap heap that end up being very, very good. It's about time we see them get a superstar like Wander Franco and get him all signed up long-term, and hopefully he's able to really get going with this team and help lead them to their first ever World Series championship. I don't think that's coming this year, but they're definitely in the mix. They come in at 7. At number 6, a team I've talked about a lot, the New York Yankees. They would have been off this list entirely a week and a half ago, but they've won a bunch in a row, 8 of their last 10. And I think they're going to go into the playoffs probably hotter than they would have thought a little bit ago. And Aaron Judge, man, when Aaron Judge comes to the plate, if you know Aaron Judge is batting and don't turn on the Yankee game, I don't know what's wrong with you. He is must-see TV at this point, and the Yankees come in at number 6. Number 5, it's hard to not have the Seattle Mariners higher than this, but there are a couple teams in the National League, and then one of the teams that just happens to be in their division as well, a little bit ahead of them on this list, but they have the best record in the league. since June 1st in the American League, since June 1st, only the Dodgers in the NL, but I think the world of the Mariners. Julio Rodriguez, one of the best players in the league. Robbie Ray, they get outstanding pitching, from their number 2, number 3, number 4, and the offense is just off and running. Eugenio Suarez is incredible. He hits a home run every day, it seems like these days, and I'm excited about the Mariners. They hit a walk-off home run against the Atlanta Braves a couple days ago. That could be a World Series preview, and I'm very excited about the Mariners. They are going to end the longest pro sports playoff drought in a couple days, and I'm very excited to see it. When I find out that the Mariners are a couple outs away from clinching the postseason, I think that's one of those things that I pull out my phone and turn it on right then and there, because that's going to be the celebrate, something you just don't see very often. Years, decades go by without seeing teams like that end a playoff drought of that caliber. And I'm excited for the Mariners and their fans. And I think once the playoffs roll around, they are dangerous. They can beat anybody. It would not at all surprise me if they win the World Series. At number 4, the New York Mets. They were just swept by the Chicago Cubs. Otherwise, they'd probably be number 3 on this list. But I had to drop them down a little bit. Their record helps keep them where they are right now. And the fact that going into a playoff series, you could run Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, Chris Bassett, Taijuan Walker. I mean, it's a really good Mets team. Peter Alonso, Francisco Lindor lead the offense. And if they can get their crap together, they have one of the best lineups in the league. I don't see any reason to be out on the Mets just because of one tough series against a hot Chicago Cubs team. And the division is not a guarantee anymore. They kind of blew that. And the team that has a chance to win it right there with them is the number 3 team on my list, the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves are the 2022 defending World Series champions, or 2021 World Series champions, after just a glorious run in the second half of last season and poning basically every single person that they play in the playoffs, including the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Houston Astros. Hint, hint, you might hear both of those teams in a couple seconds. And the Braves are just really, really, really good. Nobody should want to play them. Austin Riley is just off the hook. They have Matt Olson playing first base. I almost said Greg Olson, football on the mind. Matt Olson playing first base, just really, really good stuff from him. I like their pitching. And the Braves with Kenley Jensen, who leads the league in saves. I mean, who would have thunk that he would leave the Dodgers, go to the Braves, and lead the league in saves while the Dodgers are giving walk-off home runs up using Craig Kimbrell. It's just a stunning turn of events, but that is what it is. At number 2, a team I've touched on a lot, the Houston Astros. The Houston Astros keep getting it done. They let Carlos Correa walk, and this Pena kid comes up, and he's sick. It's hey, why did the Astros let Correa walk? Well, because every single player they touch turns to gold, right? And, Tucker, amazing. Alvarez, amazing. They still have Altuve. They still have Gurriel. They made a trade for a backup catcher. Maldonado is the only player in their lineup that's not a home run threat, and he's an elite defensive catcher, maybe the best in the league. So the Houston Astros, they've been able to hold off the red-hot Mariners kind of by a lot, and their winning percentage since June 1st isn't much below the Mariners, so that's how they've been able to stay afloat, and they're going to win the NL West or the AL West again, and they're going to make another deep run in the playoffs. I think you can count on that. At number 1 is the Los Angeles Dodgers. You're not surprised at all by this. They are one of the best teams in any sport. Their lineup 1 through 9 is probably the greatest major league lineup I've ever seen. Again, wasn't around for the 27 Yankees. I think this Dodgers team could compete with the 27 Yankees. In fact, I think they'd sweep them. And they have good pitching. They need to get their bullpen sorted out over the next 3 weeks. Otherwise, they will be bounced early in the playoffs. But looking at their roster, I can't help but put them anywhere but number 1, just outside the top 10. If the Chicago White Sox stay hot enough and end up taking the division lead over the Detroit or the Cleveland Guardians, it's going to be hard to not have them at number 10. The Philadelphia Phillies just missed the cut because they've won 5 in a row, and they're third place in their division. But the 2 teams ahead of them are the Braves and the Mets, who are both top 5 on this list. And I had to leave them out, but barely. But we'll see what happens. So that's my list of the top 10 teams in the NFL, NHL, and MLB. I was excited to bring it to everybody and kind of go over it throughout the second half of this show. If anybody has any disagreements with me on that and you think somebody else should have made the list, you think one team's too high, you think one team's too low, tweet at me at Vinnie Parise. I want to hear from everybody, and you could check out all the great shows here at the Barroom Network. Obviously, yesterday there was a loaded episode of Bar Down Talking Hockey where Frank Mueller and I went over some overreactions in the NFL, and then we previewed the NHL's Pacific Division from top to bottom. We previewed who we think each team's leading scorer is going to be. We went over where each team's going to finish in the division, who from the division is going to make the playoffs, who has a chance to surprise the world. It was a loaded episode. I'm so excited about it. Make sure you go check it out. You could find it on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Twitch, my Twitter account right below. You know, it's all over the place. If you want it, it's easy to find. Facebook Live, obviously, and obviously the rest of the Barroom Network promoting the NFL season. You got Fantasy Football Goon with Joe Mandel, and all the great shows that cover football. Buffon 55, obviously Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls is an incredible show. Mike North, I believe, is on Saturday mornings now. Mike North, and shout out to him. Man, he's an interesting fellow, and I like reading his football takes. Nobody in the world likes Mitchell Trubisky more than Mike North. I think Mike North might like Mitchell Trubisky more than Mitch's own parents. So we'll see how he's able to do with the Pittsburgh Steelers this weekend. I'm excited about it. And I'll be right back talking baseball with the South Burbs Hitmen on Monday night. Make sure you tune into that at 8 o'clock Central Time. No matter what, keep watching sports. They're all coming back. The weather's starting to turn as it is officially fall. Going into the weekend against the Detroit Tigers, let's go White Sox. Going into the Chicago Bears weekend, it is Packers week. Let's go Bears. No matter what, stay watching sports, stay family. Love you all. Thank you for listening.
Another happy landing.